Okay, this is the second chapter in my life story, and this is the third part. I've talked about school, I've talked about family life. In this third part, I'm going to talk about holidays, a little bit about hobbies, and also about significant events. Okay, so firstly, as a child, as a young child, at home, I was easily occupied in a fantasy world. I love playing with toy cars. And in the living room, I created a fantasy world where all my cars were being driven by professional racing drivers. And I would create these imaginary races and allocate drivers to a particular toy car and then carry out the races on regular occasions and allocate points to the winner. And I would push the cars around a track that I would create with the furniture in the room. And at this time, my family would be watching TV. I wasn't that keen on TV, although there were children's programs in black and white, of course. I do remember my favourite, particularly when I was very young, was the Wooden Tops. That occurred on Fridays. And on Thursdays we had Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men. On Tuesdays, Andy Pandy. So I remember that. And of course, other favourites were Yogi Bear, the American Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I loved Yogi Bear. Anyway, we also collected stamps, my sister and I. And I was very jealous of my sister's collection. So periodically I'd steal some of hers to get my collection a little bit more impressive. This caused a lot of friction between me and my older sister. Saturday was a big day for me. After going shopping to get a dinky car with my father, on the way back he would go to the sweet shop and we'd buy a bag of sweets and a large bottle of pop and get ready for the sport on Saturday afternoon. First we'd watch the fight of the week, boxing from America, which was always first class, and then Grandstand would start, and that would be on for about 4.5 hours, and there would be horse racing, rugby league in the winter, rugby union as well. There wasn't any live football. The football league wouldn't allow it, but with that sport and also a lot of motocross, I remember. I loved watching motocross, and my father would sit with me for hours and we would talk about what we liked and who was going to win. The rugby league particularly, Eddie Waring was the commentator, and I still hold a great love for that now. What else about this part of my life? I do remember that I loved football, and when I was 9 years of age, we were invited to a wedding in Reading. This was a member of my mother's family, a friend of a family relative, cousin, I think. And we used to visit this lady frequently. She was a very, very pleasant woman. We called her Auntie Lil. Anyway, one of her children was getting married, and the marriage ceremony was in May, and it coincided with the FA Cup final. I do remember it clearly, because we went to Reading, and there was a church ceremony, and then we all piled into a hotel and had a nice lunch. And then after lunch, all the men disappeared, and I was sitting there with my father, and I said to him, where are all the men? And he said, oh, they've gone next door. There's a TV in there, and the FA Cup final is on between Manchester United and Leicester. And I said to him, oh, can we go and watch? So in we went, and this was the day that my love affair with Manchester United started. I was sat on the floor, all the chairs were taken by the men, and watching this match between United and Leicester, and I saw my first heroes, Bobby Charlton, who was a star player for Manchester United and England. And Man United won the match 3-1, and there were 2 goals by David Hurd, and he became another hero of mine. And after that day, Man United were my team, and I fell in love with the Red Devils, and they are still today an important part of my life. Okay, one more to do, part 4 coming up